It starts on one cold October day. Even though I was wearing my parka, I felt a tiny bit cold. My dad was pulling some stuff from his truck. We hiked about 3 miles with my 2 brothers. Joseph, who was my older brother, and Miles, my younger, was with us. Joseph is about 17, and he's a senior in high school. Miles is about 12 and is still an annoying brat. We decided to camp out today because the house was being cleaned due to a funky smell coming from the bathroom. Dad said it would be done in about 3 days, so we decided to take that time to get out of school and camp out. Our dad, about 42 years old, is pretty cool. For a single father, he is pretty laid back. He doesn't care what we do as long as we get good grades and stay in school. He was different today, kind of like the time Mom walked out on us. He barely spoke and spent a lot of time in his room. He would make frequent trips to the bathroom with buckets of what I thought was puke. Today, though, Joseph noticed too, but shrugged it off as just a mood swing of sorts. As we set up camp that night, we noticed we had no signal. We tried to tell Dad, but he said we would be fine as he kept his shotgun with him. It was about 3 in the morning, a clicking noise come from his tent. We didn't know what it was, so we ignored it. Our little brother couldn't quite fall asleep, so we decided that 3 of us should go walking. We weren't afraid of the woods or darkness, so we went deep into the trees until we reached the river. Stones to throw, fish to catch. It was perfect. We decided to go there. That's when we heard the gunshots. We stood wondering what could have happened. We ran back to the tents, quietly scanning the area. Our dad sat back against his chair as he cried. We were just about to walk over to him when we noticed the blood coming from the tents. Wait, not blood. Kool-Aid. We watched as he cried. Within minutes, the entire area was surrounded by the police. Someone else must have heard them. We looked in disbelief as they handcuffed Dad. We ran to him, and as he saw us, he cried harder. While the police took him away, they searched the tents. We looked inside the tent and saw 2 giant shotgun holes in the sides. Those were our tents. He tried to kill us. The police eventually took us into custody, explaining the entire thing. When my little brother was 2, I was 5 and my older brother 7, my mom tried getting custody of us. No one knows why, but she tried to get the hell away from there. But what hit us the most was the fact that she didn't leave. She was there the entire time. She didn't leave us, like Dad said. She was underneath the bathroom. It hit me. The dread in my father's eyes, the buckets of puke, the frequent visits to the bathroom. He killed her. He killed her and stuffed her in the bathroom for a whole damn decade. The thought haunts me. A week later, he killed himself. He didn't even get a lawyer. He drowned himself in the toilet. We spent 3 days in custody. We were then sent to our Aunt Lenny, but she died about a month ago. Now we are being adopted by a nice, sweet couple. Fairly young compared to Dad. There's one odd thing, however. They used to have children, and there's a funky smell in the bathroom. To start this story off and to give a little insight about me, I'm an 18-year-old female who grew up in Michigan and have lived in the country for as long as I can remember. And for heads up, this is a long story, so bear with me. On one particular hot summer weekend, me and a couple friends, including my boyfriend, let's call him Tony, and my older brother, let's call him Brad, decided we were gonna go camping for the weekend since it was such a nice warm week. Tony's parents had owned a cabin way out in Ludington, surrounded by a huge wood-like area with a personal lake and no neighbors for at least 4 miles. But being stupid teenagers, we didn't really think about that. All we were ready for was to party like any normal teens would. Well, after being there for 2 hours, our fun began. Tony's friends brought tons of alcohol and weed to last us for the weekend, so we wouldn't be bored since we had no service and only movies to watch. After midnight, we made a huge bonfire and the 6 of us sat around it. We talked and laughed about upcoming events in our lives. We were so distracted that we didn't notice that my brother had literally frozen his eyes onto one section of the woods. Mind you, we were all intoxicated and high at that time. Eventually, our talking ceased when Tony realized his friend and my brother had an emotionless expression. "Hey, dude, you all right?" he asked Brad. Silence. Brad didn't reply or even make any movements that would indicate he heard him. After that, I became very scared, as well as the other two girls. It took a lot for my brother to act that way. Eventually, I was the first to catch on that he was excessively staring into a certain spot in the woods. I turned my head and followed his gaze the best I could. When I finally caught on to what he was staring at, my heart dropped. There, right fucking there, was a dog. At least, that's what I thought. It was some person's dog that wandered off. But then my brain went into motion and I realized there weren't neighbors for miles. So how could there be a dog? My mind started to race while Tony still tried to get Brad to speak or even move. In one motion, this thing stood up tall. When I say tall, I mean freaking huge. It had to be at least 6 feet tall. Everyone saw it by then. How could you not? The other two girls and the other boy with us held their breath as they finally saw why my brother was as still as a stick. No one moved for what seemed like hours. Tony was the first to talk. "No tail," he mumbled. No one heard what he said except Brad. And I swear to you when I say his eyes widen as big as saucers, that freaked me out immediately. "What did you say?" one of the girls asked. "It has. No. Damn tail," he hissed at her. My heart stopped. He was right. There was no tail on this thing. Suddenly, my cloudy alcohol mind became clear in a fraction of a second when I finally realized what this thing was. Now I understood why my brother was basically shitting his pants. This thing was a skinwalker. My instincts kicked in right then and there, but before I could nope the hell out of there, the thing let off a terrible stench like rotting meat before screaming inhuman-like. The sound was enough to scare the hell out of everyone. My brother was the first up out of his chair and started shouting native words to the creature while I told everyone to get the hell inside. No one questioned me when they saw just how dead serious I was, especially Tony. He's never seen me so scared, so he knew it was a bad situation. We all hightailed it into the cabin with my brother in tow, still shouting native words at the creature, which seemed to keep it at bay while it gave us enough time to get inside. He slammed and locked the door before turning all the lights off and grabbing a special ash from the kitchen counters and started throwing it at every window and door while chanting. Of course, he had everyone freaked out and basically in tears at that moment. After he was done, no one said a word for a long time, all of us still in shock. He took our dad's pistol and kept it by his side for hours. Everyone was too shaken to even question what happened. We must have fallen asleep eventually because I woke up to my brother packing all our stuff into the 2 cars early in the morning. I understood why. We had native family. We knew what we were dealing with. And we knew it would come back and maybe not alone. Before we left, I did a blessing on the cabin and spoke a few calming words to the still very freaked out girls. We left as soon as everything was packed up. To this day, we still haven't explained exactly to our friends what happened that night, and they never bother to ask us either.